who is the largest paint manufacturer in the world, and how we're going to go about working with them to try and find a solution. Okay, but as we know, there is clearly an issue, and I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon. All of you need to thank Trudi for the work that she's done. She's put in hundreds of hours, spent thousands of dollars to do the testing on all of this stuff, and she's got information that nobody does based on. I'll hand the floor over to her and let her go ahead. I may interject some things that I know or my own experience during the course of this, and I have not reviewed her slides or anything, but I have seen this presentation before, and we'll just let her take the floor.
Hey everybody, I'm Trudi Whitecomb. I'm co-owner of Classic Touch Pressure Washing. Been washing almost 18 years, and co-owner of Panhandle Power Wash Supply. So about 9 years ago, in 1 month, our company changed a $5 million home and a half a $500,000 home. In that 1 month, we would have to pay $77,000 to paint those two homes. So when that happened, I was a little upset. I was actually a lot upset. I was really a lot confused and didn't know what in the world was going on. We hadn't changed what we were doing. We'd been to training, certified. We've been cleaning to industry standards for years, and all of a sudden, houses are changing colors. It's like, okay, what's going on? So I started digging into this, asking questions, going to paint manufacturers, saying what's happening. And the $5 million home we changed, we had the general manager come out, a rep come out. They took a sample of the siding. They took it back to their lab. We got the report. There was no evidence of SH. There was no evidence of surfactant. They did all their little legal mumbo jumbo, and at the bottom they said it was washed incorrectly. That's all they gave me. So I started testing products. Well, first I just started digging into it, asking questions. I started an industry paint issue Facebook group. It's got almost 3,000 members in it right now, contractors that this has affected. And I started testing chemicals, and I started testing paints, different paint manufacturers, and just to see what works. And I never found anything that works. I have now. I've tested it several times, and it's worked every time, so I'm happy about that. But it is going to jack up the price. Instead of $30 in chemicals, you're going to be spending $300 in chemicals. Instead of the house taking 2 hours, it's going to take 4 or 5 hours. It is a longer process. It's a more expensive chemical, but it has worked multiple times for me on the testing. So on this testing, I've tested lots of products. I mean, the 30-second cleaner was that, the spray it and forget it, all those, everything's failed. So this time, I did do this last time, and I did it again. It did fail last time. It changed color. It kind of tinted a little bit this time, but it wasn't as bad, but I diluted it down further, like less than what they tell me to use. I got with my friend's EcoCam up there, and I asked them, I was going to use Cleanse All BC or One Restore, and Lee up there said, no, I want you to try Sabre 2. And he said, this is going to be a better option, so I tried that. Of course, I did my downstreaming. That's what I do 98% of the time is downstream. Another contractor company sent me this. I've never used it before. I've never heard of this before, but it's Precision Soap by PowerBrite. It's a heavy-duty cleaner. And then I use the Green Ox Renew, which is hydrogen peroxide based. So what I found out, I'll show you those later. What I'm going to talk about first is test spot. Okay, so I've got these boards, and how I test, because the $5 million house we changed, when it was wet, it looked the same. The next morning, it changed the night before closing. These people were closing on their $5 million house and showed up and it was a different color. So that was even worse. So if you're close, go ahead and spray a little downstream behind a bush or something and go back the next day. But time is money. We want to get to a job. We want to get it done. A lot of us, do bids on Google Earth and bid it, get the job, and do that. So what I do is I show up at the job, pull my water hose up, hook it up. I've got my little spray bottle, pump up sprayer, go behind a bush, behind a AC, If the homeowner's there, I explain what I'm doing, but where we live, 2/3 of the people don't live there, they're vacation rentals. So we're working from them, from New York, Chicago, wherever they live, they call us, they find us, we do the job, they email us a check. Or property managers, so they're usually not home. So if they are home, I knock on the door, I said, I see your house is painted, I'd love to do test spot if you don't mind, and if it changes, then I explain exactly what's going on. And I've got contractors calling me, hey, I'm at this house, it did test spot, it changed, what do I do? And I'm like, explain, if you need me to explain, here's my cell phone number, I'll talk to the homeowner, I don't mind, and a lot of them do that. Usually I don't get a call from the homeowner, I just kind of educate them on how to explain it to the homeowners. So what I do is I take my SH, not like that, that would have been bad. Well, I could have been in front of it instead of getting it on the carpet.
You have the same ratio that you would have it mixed if you were downstream?
No, I'm using straight to test so I can get the results. That's why I hook my water first, so I have water in there to, doesn't that smell like work? Anyway, so I have the water hooked up because I spray it, and then I go turn my pressure washer on, I bring my hose around, I look at it, if it's changed, I rinse it, if it hasn't changed, I rinse it, and we're good to go. I'm gonna show you here quickly, it changes in just a second when I get it going. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer to do it, but usually within seconds.
Trudi, how long ago did you paint those boards?
These ones have been painted, actually this board I had painted a long time ago. These ones I did about 2 weeks ago. And let them cure and sit in the sun.
And the cure time on the cans that you use are what, 24, 48 hours?
Yes, yeah. I searched to see what that was and they said 24, and I called the company, I'm like, hey, how long does it take to cure? But it's been a couple weeks, we painted them and then went on vacation and, let's see if it's changing. Oh, there we go. So I see it's turning green. So that's how quickly it changes. So you can see it's going to change. So you can rinse it off and tell the home, don't ever do a spot this big. I mean, it can take, some people use a little Q-tip.
So you just use straight 12.5%?
12.5% because it changes instantly. But if you see on this color, it didn't.
So what kind of results have you seen from a diluted ratio similar to what we'd be using?
I will show you right now. This is downstream and this probably see the house at 1.5%. And just so you see the color difference. Let me get the name. There we go. See the color difference? These are both the same color at the beginning. That was downstreaming. So a lot of these paints are not going to, if you use it, I mean, I don't go really strong on my mix unless I have to. A lot of the guys that do soft washing or whatever, it's gonna get worse. But you can see the color, you get the
So
green.
you said 1 to 1.5%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Downstream.
And just so some of you that maybe have not taken a house wash class that we put together here, 1 to 1.5% is a stronger mix. Maybe average to stronger mix. In that class, we teach 0.5% to 2%. 2% being under extreme conditions for most of the surfaces, like a vinyl or even a hardy plank. And me personally, 1% is really the strongest, maybe 1.25 that I allow my guys to use for any standard cleaning. When I'm in an HOA property management job that we do every single year, it's 0.5%. All right, so 1.5 to 2%. That's a pretty strong mix for standard house washing, in my opinion, and the way we teach it through the PWA house wash class. Unless you're getting involved in some stucco, drive it, or that kind of stuff. So,
Which most of our houses are down there, but I mean, 1.5 is usually when we just get the fresh SH in, but normally it's below that. But I mean, even any amount of SH is going to change, as you know.
well, and I've been told from somebody, the owner of a company, a very successful company, who had this issue, and then he went out and did the next year, did it himself with 0.5% and still changed the color.
You want to do the pictures? These are just pictures of, that's my other test boards, but these are pictures of colors and houses have changed because it can be any color. White, there's white. It's not blues, not just greens. I've seen purple, I've seen beiges, white. I just had a guy who messaged me on Facebook and tagged me in and said, hey, this whole garage door was white, now it's green, so. There is some human error involved in this. I know there's some guys on, these are not my pictures, these are what people send me. But there are some guys on YouTube saying, I'm gonna sue Sherwin-Williams, and they do a video, but the roof mix hit the house. That's 6%. So obviously they didn't pre-wet the house. This is a green hue also. You know, you have to, contractor error does happen and it will change. You know, you can't just blame the companies. But, you know, if you're gonna do a roof wash, make sure you keep the body of the house wet. Here's some brown doors. Even us, I mean, we've been washing years. I teach this class. Our people still make mistakes. I get a call like, oh man, I was washing this house and I did test spot, but they just repainted the ceilings on the porch and now I've got to repaint those. I'm like, oh, thank goodness it's not the whole house. But like you see, there's all different colors. The blue right here, the teal blue, tends to be the worst that I've seen.
Red too.
But yeah, it's really scary. We
What
don't
about
know.
beiges? Have you seen?
Beige? Yes, there's a picture of the house up here in beige.
It seems like I've been having a lot of trouble with beige
Yes.
for some reason.
Yes.
I came in late, but did you cover already what's causing this?
No, I'm working on it. What's causing it? We're still working on it and I'm finding things. But let me go over the results first and then I'll get into whatever. So I've already showed you, this is downstream. And I know it was in your truck, so it's probably been there a while, so it's probably on the lower end of the percentage. But this changed. This was when I went to the store. I've got Valspar, I've got Benjamin Moore, and I have Sherwin-Williams. The Valspar, when I took the color code in, they got a little darker, so, but it didn't do anything. The Benjamin Moore and the Sherwin-Williams did change a little bit. And I actually have, I'll tell you a little story when I find out which one it is. Okay, so when I painted the boards, I had my shop guy cut them, and then he confused on what color was what. We didn't have them labeled, so I had to do a test spot to see. So this is the Sherwin-Williams. And I did this test spot on the Benjamin Moore, and you can also see it has also changed. I got a bit one up here. So everybody's saying, oh, no, that's just a Sherwin-Williams. Okay, so that's, you can see it only had a little spot. I only did test spot it right now, but you can see that it did change on the Benjamin Moore also. So for people like, oh, it's a Sherwin-Williams house, I'm not touching it. It doesn't matter. It's a painted house. It's a pigment issue. It's not a paint issue. This pigment can be put in any brand of paint, any classification. It could be in contractor grade. It could be high end. It could be on any brand, any classification of paint. Okay, so this one is a simple green. Like I said, I used it. It didn't change a lot because I did a lighter mix this time. Last time I did the highest recommendation and it did turn green. This one I did a bit lighter, but you can see it also changed. And you can see the green hue in there a little bit. So this is the product that they are telling you to use on this paint. It doesn't work.
Well, it
And
doesn't
also-
work, but it does work in changing the color.
It does work in chip there. This is a mildew on the back. You can see it doesn't. SA's got cleaned up good. And this one, the Saber 2 did not change the color of the paint, but as you see, it didn't kill the mildew, so it's pointless. This new product, you know, the more I see it now, it kind of looks like it may have that green hue to it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm not sure. Turn it around. I might have got smaller boards this time.
That one on the left does have a green.
Well, this one, where it ran off when I did the test spot, so I just didn't have time to repaint it, and I didn't want to put fresh paint on it for the test. So,
Take notice to the tones of the colors.
are you seeing the green on that bottom one?
Yeah.
A little bit? Okay.
So let me chime in here a little bit on information that I've gathered. It's been known to happen on white paint as well. I have spoken to Sherwin-Williams as they have agreed to go ahead and start working with us as an industry. What I mean by that is, now I'll just give you, so I just had this issue. My company washes millions of square feet of hardy plank every year, been doing it for 10 years. Never had an issue. All of a sudden, boom, this year, 2 houses in a community of 175 that we did are having this issue. Not directly due to any kind of true dripping or discoloration as a drip pattern of sorts like you're seeing or a spray pattern. The issue that I ran into is touch-up scenario that clearly was done after installation on, nail holes, caulk lines, and that kind of stuff. And they're blaming me for it. Fortunately for me, I actually had pictures before we washed and proved that actually those spots were already there. But it's clear to me that some of the touch-up paint they're using on some of these installations of hardy plank are not the highest quality compared to the factory finish, and probably is the same line. We don't know what line it was yet, but I took the pictures of it. You can see the brush marks, okay, and you can also see an area where they scrubbed off with what I've been told potentially was Simple Green, and Simple Green has done this in your testing, all right? So, it's not necessarily, and it's not a Sherwin-Williams issue. On Facebook, we gotta stop saying it's only Sherwin-Williams. We have evidence. It's Benjamin Moore, did you have a Bear product?
I did not have a Bear product that changed. I have tested that, but I haven't tested all the colors. So I tried to get light colors to test because it's fair. I'm not gonna get a light blue or
Right.
a dark blue and test it. I did that, and it's not fair to do that. You need light colors to see if they change.
Are we surmising that it's a pigment issue and it's a high
Yes.
filling issue with the pigments, or is it strictly a bleach? Because if you're telling me the Simple Green's the problem, and it is, well, then it's not just
And-
Not
bleach.
just bleach.
And the Power Bright also, which the Power Bright did clean the mildew off pretty well, but it also discolored the paint.
Have you noticed this still happening if you do not allow the surface to dry?
Yes.
The chemical to dry?
Yes.
It's happening instantly, isn't it?
Yeah.
As soon as it's
Yeah.
getting hit.
Now,
Depending on how much pigment.
in my one of my neighborhoods that I watch tons of this stuff, but also there's single family homes. One of my competitors called me up one day and said, "You gotta come help me." And he fortunately it was a test area, and the house was only a year old, and the test area was, you could see in the corner, it was the caulk lines and the nail holes that had been touched up by the builder that changed immediately. All right. Fortunately for him, homeowner was aware of it, and the builder said, "Don't worry about it. We'll fix it. We'll retouch them up." So getting back to Sherwin-Williams has agreed to help us with this situation by taking in whatever cases we can bring to them, whether it's a Sherwin-Williams product or not. And what we're going to do there is I'm going to create a streamline where, and I will announce this to the industry via Facebook after this event on PWA Friends and Members. I'm going to create a email that you can send your information to with a questionnaire of the circumstances of your job or situation, whatever it is. I'm going to vet this stuff a little bit. I'm not just going to take 100 people coming in and throwing all kinds of stuff their way. But then they will, and I will channel that to Sherwin-Williams. And I'm in touch directly with corporate and the research and development department. And they will then send out somebody to take a look, a rep to take a look, do their due diligence. In addition, they also want us as an industry to tell them exactly what we are using and doing and cleaning with. So they can do that and test at their testing facility out in Cleveland. I will get to that point here in the next, month probably, and say, okay, here is a basic outline of what we're doing, how we're doing it with the ratios that we're using. Again, it's not just bleach, based on her testing. And The other thing is, we have accounts of following to the T, the recommendations of these manufacturers, following it, and it's still happening by using the things that they're telling us to use. So there's an issue here somewhere. I have talked to Trudi about not giving out too much information right now that we don't release to everybody, because I think there's some things we need to hold on to until we can prove them. You know, speculation would not be good, and here's what else is not good. Talking about on Facebook, you know, class action lawsuits against Sherwin-Williams. When I met with my rep, who is the middleman between all of the stores, reps, managers on the East Coast, or most of them, and corporate, he said, "Bo, before I came out here, I was called by my boss's boss, and he basically almost told me it's not going to happen. You're not going to go meet with me." But when he explained to him what I represented, who I represented, he said, and the conversations we had already had, and what my goal was, he said, "Okay, go ahead and meet with him." He said, "We've also heard about the threat of a class action lawsuit." I said, "If I have my way, that's not going to happen. We won't even attempt to go down that road," because he looked at me and said, "Well, good, because we're done if that happens." So on Facebook, talking about this, you know, that talk is no good for anybody. But after this week, we will have a conduit to be able to at least work with the largest paint manufacturer in the world to try and come up with a solution. And based on the evidence that she has, and whatever happens in the future, we will try and figure something out, because I don't think this is going to change until something changes. You know, this is only going to get worse, in my opinion.
Have you guys noticed it with stains too?
Yes. Yeah, if you're in my industry paint issues group, you'll see a bunch of pictures, what people send me. And I don't take the pictures at face value. Like I said, that could be contractor error. It could be painter error. I've heard of painters watering down the exterior paint just so it goes further. You know, it's happened. I've seen, you know, it's you. I've washed a house and all of a sudden the paint's just running off the things, and I'm just like, what in the world? Why is the paint off the shutters? You know, it's not exterior paint.
Well, you define your stain, you're talking
Deck
Like
stain.
pigmented, like say.
like semi-transparent?
Like
or-
semi-transparent, pigmented, where you still see the wood.
This wouldn't be much of a problem with a stain, if it's being usually an oil base,
Right.
this is more of a water based
Right.
type. Is it staying on water
I
base, or
haven't-
is
I
it
haven't
stretched
tested
out
it.
into alkalis or anything else that we know of?
I have not tested on the stains. I've been knee deep in this stuff just to try and figure out how to help us contractors not be liable for this issue. Anyway, the last board I had is with the Green Ox Renew. This one actually didn't change the color of the paint, and it cleaned very well. Like, this is the one that's gonna be more expensive. It's hard. You have to use a pump up sprayer. You have to use, you know, 12 volt. And I guess you can use a gas roof pump, but it's gonna take you longer to wash. So when I did my last class, I went to the paint manufacturer stores, paint stores, to buy the paints for the sample. I dressed up a civilian. I didn't bring my wrap truck. I went in there as a homeowner saying, "Hey, I've got a home in a subdivision. I'm about to get fined by my HOA because nobody will touch it. Nobody wants to clean my house. What can I use to clean this?" You know, and I've tested all the products they recommend. This has been the last one they've recommended. It failed. I actually went back into that same paint store with my PWI, you know, Pressure Washing Institute instructor shirt on, explained to them that I was an instructor. And she looked at me and said, is there a need for that? And I'm like, yeah, if you don't want to change people's houses, there is, you know, I mean, there's a lot of damage you can do with a pressure washer if you don't know what you're doing. So I had my sample board. There was a new manager in there. She came and took pictures. She was very helpful. She actually gave me the pigment that is in this blue color for me to test. This is it right here. And that's what it's going to look like. It's not going to mix well in there. So you can keep pictures if you want. Some more pictures of that. Oh, here's one on that. So it's not just on walls. Not just on walls. This guy got mad with the zero tip when he changed it, because I was doing the sidewalks out and I'm like, oh my goodness, what did this guy do? He just,
That's thorough.
yeah. That was, but you could see the house had changed color, and I bet he thought just, oh, whatever, it's already ruined, I'm just gonna have fun. But, yeah, it's scary, guys. You could lose a lot of money. There's a local contractor that changed 7 houses in one subdivision. He lost everything. Insurance dropped him, they wouldn't cover it, his house, everything, his business is gone. So just a few minutes to do these test spots is gonna save you a lot of money, a lot of headache, a lot of looking in your homeowner's eyes with tears in them, like the biggest investment just got ruined. What are you gonna do about it? You know, there's a lot of things that, I mean, just crazy, that brown one.
You know, one of the best lines of defense with this, and I teach this in the house wash class, is, and it doesn't leave you blameless necessarily, but following the instructions or recommendations of the manufacturers of every surface that you're cleaning, including whatever paint it is. And if you read those instructions before, you take a siding, hardy plank, whatever, vinyl siding, but any painted surfaces, you know, Sherwin-Williams, Benjamin Moore, Behr, what is their cleaning recommendation? And knowing and understanding that before you get into it, so that you can say, hey, I followed these guidelines. You know what I mean? That's exactly what I had to do in my situation with the 2 homeowners in the neighborhood that, you know, came to me, and I had to prove it to the HOA, and I put it in writing. So following those guidelines is very important.
So are we to a point where it's being recommended now to do a test patch? And if you find that you're turning colors, don't take the job?
Pretty much.
There is no other at present.
Or do you tell the
Ah,
homeowner?
Well,
But you tell the
I
homeowner,
mean,
this
if
is
you
what's
wanna
going
set their
on.
expectations.
You say to the homeowner, you know, I know that this is gonna happen if I clean your house, and you might have to paint it afterwards, and leave it at home.
but even still, if you get a handshake agreement from that homeowner and then it happens, you can say, no, you know what, you still screwed it up.
Yeah.
I've been told of a scenario like that.
You can even put it in your contract, that if
Yeah,
this
there's a
happens,
guy
you are
out there
not
right now.
liable, you're still liable.
He's
You're the
got it
last
in his
person to touch
contract,
that.
very explicit, it's saying, I am not responsible. And guess what, it happened, and the guy is suing him for like $22,000.
It's making people gun shy right now. I have a large customer in this Florida area who specifically called up asking for an alternative. And talking to the suppliers, they're not giving us any, all right?
This one works, so far.
What is that?
That's the one that I did, that's the green ultra new. But it has to be pump up or 12 volted on. You cannot downstream it, that's why it's gonna cost you $300 in chemical.
What type of a product is
It's
it?
a hydrogen peroxide based.
Okay.
And I've tested it 3 or 4 times. The first time I tested it was in 2020, in March in Georgia. So we were doing a little event up there. I tested it, and the company was up there, and they did their class before me and hyped everybody up. And then I got up there with my sample board, and it didn't change the color of the paint. It didn't kill the mildew, but it started eating the paint off the board.
Hydrogen peroxide product?
Yes, so I worked with them, they said, what's the issue? I told them. They did something with it, and the next time I had my class, they're like, I want you to test it again. And I said, I've got 600 people registered for my event in January. If it fails, they're all gonna know about it, because I'm not sugarcoating it. I'm doing this for the contractors, not the manufacturers of whatever chemical.
You're doing most of your work in Florida though, right? And so, would it be safe for me to say you have more of a slimier coating on the outside of the walls compared to, like in Georgia, we have a lot, it's called a drier looking mold and mildew. Talking to chemists just recently about this very situation, they were talking that, you know, bleach is our best product for killing our mold and mildew.
Yeah.
The peroxide comes in second, but doesn't always get down into the shadows.
Exactly, yeah.
And so, you know, in southern Florida, where I know on the roofs it's a lot different because you have more of a slimier type green, and then bleach, just like that, takes care
I'm
of it.
up north Florida, I'm like lower Alabama, I'm not even considered
Okay,
Florida.
But I do see differences because of high humidities and things like
Yes.
that. So right now, the peroxide would be our second best choice.
It would, I mean, it's just scary for everybody. That's why I keep testing all these products on the paint. You know, this color paint the Sherwin-Williams. This was the color of the $500,000 house that we changed. This was the color. We bought all the paint to repaint it. We had the painter lined up. Then he went off and had it painted, and then we got a letter in the mail saying, oh, you're getting sued. I'm like, well, we were taking care of it. But I guess he was just so annoyed with what we had done wrong. He didn't want us touching it, which we didn't do anything wrong.
Which is what you're gonna find more often from these people than not, really.
So I always test that one because I know it's going to change. And I want to test products to see if it's going to change that paint. If I change that paint color, I don't know if it's going to change or not until I do the test spot. But when I got my hands on this pigment, I pulled out all the SDS sheets, and I have tracked this paint issue problem way back to 2005. So when I got my hands on this pigment, I got the SDS sheets, and I was reading it, and it said it was manufactured in 2005. I'm like, boom, there's a timeline.
Like,
I can give
And
you,
then a
I
flat.
can give you firsthand knowledge.
because I have a building, that 3-story big building, it's been washed over the years.
So the
every
one
quarter.
house that is clear to me that, and we're gonna have to wrap this up here real quick with some questions and get down to the kickoff. I've watched it 4 times in the last 5 years. The first 3 times, no issue, okay? Somewhere in the middle, there was one other contractor that got the contract from me, and then I got it back again. And now we have this issue. So, you know, I can't clearly identify that, and I have heard of that happening.
I have
You
that
know,
problem.
yes, so there's that. So any quick questions about this? And feel free to stop, and Trudy's gonna be here, you're here for.
Yeah, we'll be here for the.
So, you know, stop, talk to Trudy, stop, talk to me. There is more information here that I just don't feel it is proper to bring to the floor right now, just because, you know, there's just too much going on. Until we can absolutely definitively prove something based on some of this stuff, I just think it's better not to put it out there. But,
I respect that.
Okay,
Thank you.
so another telltale sign is when you go to a house, the elements, natural elements are gonna break down this pigment. So if you're walking around a house to give a bid and you see the sunny side is a shade lighter, that's gonna be a telltale sign. Not always, I mean, you know, if you hide some, you can get oxidation, but little things like that will just make you think like, oh, I better test this. But just any color, it can be any, I've got people like, oh, I don't worry about it, I watch white houses, I pull out my phone and show them pictures, and like, I didn't even think that was possible.
Yeah, and keep in mind, just because, and just so you know, real quick, Hardy Plank is under a class action lawsuit for fading issues on colors very similar to these samples right here, all right? And, I'll leave it there. Okay.
Hardy's had some major.
They've got some, yeah, and I've got some other things that I would like to say, but I'm not gonna say.
I
But,
understand.
again, you know, stop talking to me, stop talking to Trudi. We need to cut this down now because we gotta get downstairs, to the main room for the kickoff and then roll into the trade show floor. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hey guys, if you guys want a free sample of this that works, just to test it out, give me your business card, I'll get you one.
Sorry.
But it seems to be the only one that works right now.
Nope, that's not my business card. That's pictures of my kids.
Aw. Oh,
Trudi, did you do a test with food grade?
pardon?
Food grade peroxide, did you do a test with that?
I can, I have it.
37%, 35%? That one won't be, I don't think that'll be food grade, but the food grade peroxide, that might be with that.
I run a lot of new homes. Newer homes. I'm running into, I'm starting to see this more and more. And it's scary.
It is.
World's largest trade show going on, PowerClean event, literally with 4 national associations, the PWNA, CETA, IWCA, and the UAMCC. We just watched Trudi there at the event handling the paint industry issues. Also, she was dealing with, she was handling that with the president of the PWNA, Bo Josetti, who jumped in and also was instructing as well. We want to thank Bo for jumping in on that and sharing some of his knowledge in the paint industry. It's awesome stuff. As you can see, guys, they were talking about the alternatives to this issue. And there is a couple of products out there that have succeeded in taking the mold and mildew off the homes without having a paint failure, like happens with typical cleaning with SH. In other words, sodium hyperchloride, guys, chlorine. Using bleach to wash a house sometimes can make the paint fail. And we have to do these tests quite frequently to ensure that you don't wind up ruining someone's house, guys. Really great show. We thank Trudi. She's awesome. Thank you, Bo. Thanks, PowerClean, and all the national associations for making this stuff happen. Largest trade show going on right now in Orlando, Florida. It's not too late. You want to check it out, go to CETA.org or PWNA.org, and I'll throw a link on here if you want to get registered for the show and you want to get a free shirt. If you use that link to register, you will get a free shirt from me, compliments of me. And I love giving shirts away. So you know what I will tell you? 5 guys that don't have any shirts, if you want to message me right now, and I will get you a free shirt. First 5 guys that do not have shirts, I'm going to say that again. If you do not have a shirt and you'd like a shirt, go ahead and message me. First 5, I'm going to give a shirt away. Appreciate everybody tonight or today. Stay tuned. We're going to have an interview coming up with the largest manufacturer in the United States for pressure washing, guys. Largest in the United States, guys. Yes, I always give everything away for free, guys. Silly question. Hey, guys. Have fun. Ron Musgraves, Pressure Washing Institute contractors first. Don't worry, National Cleaning Expo, guys, for all the free events.